Yeah, that's messed up. When I read about that, that's terrible. That say what you want about that guy. I think we've kind of rehashed the scenario and how things went down two or three different times, and we come to the conclusion that everyone involved was a bad guy, and that's what I believe, because it seems that Peterson and Martin were both at fault in their own ways. Peterson seems like an overzealous
Zimmerman
gun nut, and that's coming from me. Okay. Like, patrolling his neighborhood. I imagine him doing like dressed all in black and doing like barrel rolls through the bushes and stuff and like popping up, like looking around.
Yeah. It's like
Meanwhile,
sweeping bus
Trayvon
stops.
is certainly no angel. As they're like, oh, he was just trying to go home with his Skittles and tea, and then we learned that like there's some like street drug called lean, and those are ingredients to it, and he was into that, and like there are no angels in this scenario. But Peterson, what a scumbag for selling
It's
that. Like
Zimmerman.
that's just. That is, pardon me. Who's Peterson?
He runs the football for Minnesota.
Of course, Adrian
imaginary
Peterson.
friend,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So close.
Well, in any case, real scumbag move doing that. That's such. I don't know what to say about that. That just seems so low class. So like,
Dude, I don't know if
It's just
I
a
might
desperate
edit
attempt
it
to get
out.
back in the public eye. He's just a piece of
Oh.
shit that has no job prospects and has to rely on, basically baiting racists into paying for his stupid shit.
I think he's just trying to make money.
Yeah,
I
he
don't know
just
if he's
needs
trying to
money.
be famous. I bet he doesn't want to be in the public
Such an
eye.
asshole.
But so to me, look, I'm not buying the gun, so don't get it twisted. But like, I have this Mosin Nagant that was used in World War II, and something about it is interesting to me because
Kyle's face is killing me.
yeah, it's he does that. He does. It's cool. So because I picture some frightened Russian like in the mud, like clutching to this thing, shooting. It's an antiquity, like it's a piece of history.
would you feel the same if you had a Japanese Arasaka rifle
Yes.
that they had used in the rape of what is it, Nanking? What is
Nanking.
Nanking, and they bayoneted the babies and stuff. If you had one of those baby bayoneting rifles, would you feel the same though? Wouldn't you feel
Yeah,
a bad?
because
The
it's just
same?
history.
No, but like it would be more interesting to me.
So-
So I have a brand new gun, not brand new, but I have a gun that I bought that's never shot anything but paper, and it's more accurate than the Mosin Nagant. It's got a scope. It's better in most measurable ways, but the Mosin Nagant is neater to me.
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem with like just keeping one that was used in the rape of Nanking or whatever as a historic piece, because it's like, yeah, that was
What
a
about
bad
this?
part of history, but it's still history. Like if you had one of those like iron crosses from the Nazis, you don't have to like put it on your wall and be like, that's what I like. You can
Like
just
Mark
be
Furman.
like, this is a piece of history. This is cool that this is history right here.
Funny you
that's what I
should
think
mention
about it.
that. My buddy had a Luger he was trying to sell one time. It was a German officer's Luger, and he's like, look, they didn't deface it or anything, because that was common after the war. Bring back weapons. Americans would bring back captured weapons, but they
Especially
would deface them.
Lugers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would deface them, take the Nazi insignia off, and of course, to a collector in modern days, you're like, no. But post World War II, you're like, fuck Nazis.
Right.
Who cares, right? But he had one with all the emblems intact, and I don't know how you verify this, but he claimed that this had come from a concentration camp, and that this pistol had been used to execute Jews, and that there were blood speckle pitting on the
You
on
could
the
never
barrel.
know that.
They explained to me that because of the way that the pitting was and the pattern that it was in, you could tell that it had been put to someone's head and fired, and the blood had speckled back and then been left on the gun and had corroded in such a way. That's what they said. Now, I don't know how they figured that out. They get the gun CSI in or whatever, or maybe he's just wishful thinking on his part, if you can call it that. Like, what kind of anti-Semite is like, yeah, it took a few down.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I think you have to be a real special kind of piece of shit to be collecting like Nazi memorabilia and looking at it longingly. But I don't understand the whole thing of like wanting to collect World War II stuff, but somehow like, oh no, like the German stuff totally off limits. That's
To
ridiculous.
me,
It's
the
like,
Russian and
it's still
American
history.
stuff is the neatest. And then after that, like the German stuff is really neat. The Japanese stuff is really neat. It's all does antiquity mean piece of history? Like it's an antique machine that played a role in global history.
Okay, but let's center the conversation. We're talking about George Zimmerman. This is 3 years ago. This is not an antiquity. This is not history.
On a smaller
this is totally
scale,
different
though,
than a Nazi's pistol.
It is
totally different.
history, though, I think. I feel like...
Chiz says,
Not in
this
the
is
same
evidence.
Stop, Chiz. You can't just join the... I think Chiz is a great host. I think he does a wonderful job, and he's always welcome to be on. But I think what we do here, where he just writes his own inside jokes and we read them, is not a good show.
There.
But
no
what was I going to say?
About the gun being... You
were going to defend the George Zimmerman gun sales.
I guess what I was saying was, like, I feel like in the same way that, like, the Black Lives Matters movement got founded by... Is it Michael Brown? Who was killed by that cop in Ferguson?
Michael Brown.
Okay. I feel like in terms of, like, history, the Trayvon Martin thing is the same significance as the Michael Brown thing. It becomes part of a series of events where people are looking at policemen different and the militarization of police, and it's not World War II. I get that, but I don't know, something about it. I'm not buying it, but I saw it for sale and I was like, I can understand why somebody would. This
sounds dumb, but it hasn't been long enough for it to be history.
Yeah,
like it's a couple of years ago, and there's a difference between wow, this is a rifle that was assigned to a Japanese guy, and he stormed into Nanking and was killing people willy-nilly. Like, what an awful part of history, but you still have to remember the bad parts of history, too. And it's different than, oh, yeah, this guy shot Trayvon Martin, and I just want to remember that. Like, there's no value in remembering that.
I want to know what happens from that shooting to make this gun worthy of me caring about, right? Like, we're nowhere near... far enough out to know that. I went to the Ford Museum in Detroit and I saw the car that Lincoln was shot in, and the chair that Lincoln was shot in, the car that JFK was shot in, and I understand the historical importance of those things being preserved, but we don't know what this gun means yet. And we won't for 10 or 20 years. Right. It's way too soon. This is a broke-ass motherfucker just looking for some cash, trying to cash in on a hot-button issue, and he's going to succeed because we've got all these Trump supporters out there who are probably all kicking each other's asses trying to bid on this shit.
MAGA. Yeah. He has sold lots of things. I remember he was doing, he does all kinds of things that are firearm-related and conservative-leaning. It seems like he was selling paintings for a while, like doing his own art. And lots of firearms related stuff. He'll go to like grand openings of gun stores and do appearances at gun stores and stuff. Like I said, I don't think he did anything wrong, criminally speaking. Right. I just think he's an asshole and a scumbag and a low-class individual to sell this thing.
It's morally but not legally reprehensible.
I don't know how much money he has, but I have more sympathy for him if
he's broke.
Yeah, if he can't get a job and he's selling stuff that, like this gun. I get the spot he's in.
I don't.
If he's broke.
I mean, I do and I don't. I mean, I do in the sense that I've been broke, and I spent 2 years, the first time I moved to Nashville, I sold my amp to a pawn shop every other week. But this guy
was on
like
CNN and Fox News for 6 months with his face plastered and them calling him a monster, so he can't get a job.
He was out patrolling with his gun, looking for bad guys that he thought needed to be eradicated before any of this ever happened. Wasn't
he the leader of like Citizen Watch, and there were recent break-ins?
Yep,
something like that. Yeah. I just don't think.
Neighborhood.
Hey, I patrol my yard with an assault rifle all the fucking time, and hey, what am I doing out there but looking for bad guys, right? And but the thing is, if I saw somebody like walking around, my first inclination wouldn't be to fucking kill them. It would be like, hey, what are you doing here?
Well, neither
you shouldn't be here. You don't belong here.
The problem I have is that it seemed like neither Zimmerman or Martin were the sort to de-escalate, right? If I was either one of them, none of this would have happened, right? If I was Trayvon Martin, I would have said, oh, yeah, there's a misunderstanding here. My uncle is right there, and I don't normally stay here, but that's why I had to jump the fence. But I'm just going to my uncle's home. I'll be sleeping. Watch, when I knock on the door, he'll answer. And they'll all say, hey, Trayvon, and it's cool. Or if I was Zimmerman, I would have been like, hey, like, what are you doing here? And if he's like, nothing, motherfucker, I'd be like, no, you got to understand, we've had some break-ins recently. I'm Citizens Watch, Community Watch. And I'm just making sure everything is chill. You chill? Like, on either side, if they were reasonable, it would have been cool. But
I think we should buy the gun. PKA should buy the gun. We should have it.
I don't want
Well, it's
anything
a
to do with buying that gun.
$5,000 minimum bid.
We'll all get a week with it at a time or whatever. We'll pass it around, do shit with it. I heard Maury Povich on the Howard Stern show today, and he was talking about his friendship with George H.W. Bush. They had been golfing buddies long before he had played. He had become the president, and so after that, every year, at least he said he would go to the White House and have lunch with the president. And he said, we never talked about policy or anything like that, but once he pulled out a handgun. He said, "Check this out," and gave me a gun. I looked at it. Well, that's very nice. He says, "That's Saddam's gun. That's the gun they took off of him when they dug him out of that spider hole." And he had it.
That's awesome. See, that's history.
That's history.
That is history because there's significance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a different place.
Like most people who
You don't want Saddam's
collect
gun?
most people who collect Nazi stuff don't do it because they're white supremacists. I don't think. I think that they do it because that's a segment of their obsession with World War II. They don't just have a Nazi thing. They have like the American stuff, the Russian stuff. That's part of the collection. Nobody is collecting guns from other killers in these similar scenarios. Like, they're not like, oh man, there was another shooting that ended up being kind of a kerfuffle in Connecticut, and I am bidding on that gun right after this. It's like, no,
Saddam Hussein's gun, though?
That's history, I said.
That's history.